Ready?
Ready.
And action.
Action. We are very excited. Here, you take two and I'll take two. We have another release of little foam stamps. Well, little foam stamps, long skinny foam stamps.
Long, skinny foam stamps. You give me a hard time throughout this whole video about calling them by the right name, and it is not long, skinny foam stamps.
No.
It is what?
Long-stemmed wildflowers.
That's right.
Inspired by our childhood wildflowers from New England.
That's right. There's even a lady slipper in the mix.
There is. I didn't grab it. Oh, wait. It's here someplace.
There is it. No,
Nope, that's not it. I don't know. Well, we'll just get it later. Well, you'll see it at some point. So, again, here's two.
The antlers.
We're adorable. Don't forget that. When all else fails, you remember that we're adorable, and that's why we do what we do.
You're adorable. I'm big. Where is that lady slipper? Here it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
The lady slipper.
Yep. So I can remember being in the woods riding my horse and coming on lady slippers and thinking, oh, they do exist. They're not a fantasy.
They're so
not
magical.
Yeah, they're not like a fairy thing where, you never actually see one.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this is a release of 13. You can see 5 of them here, and there's 8 more.
Wow.
8 and 5 is 13, right?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
I know.
I was impressed when you said 8 and 5.
So samples, because I can't help myself, I went back to the distressed Mica Stains, and if I catch that just right, it's the silly season as we film this, so I brought the stickles in too, because why not? Easy to do. You can stamp. The nice thing about these, our foam stamps in general, is that you can use practically any media with them, whether it's almost water-like distressed Mica Stains are, up to, heavy-bodied acrylics. So and everything in between. So there's lots of opportunity to work with the media that you already have, or to try something brand new.
Yeah, I mean, we also used them in this video with archival ink pads.
Exactly,
So,
yes.
Yeah, you can stamp with all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can even stamp with like gold metallic leaf adhesive. I've even done that.
Yeah, we've done that too. Yeah.
We stamp the adhesive and then put foil in it. So really, they're pretty cool, endless possibilities.
I know, right? So
and this one, and then this is what I
Elizabeth
did. It's also shimmery, and it's really catching the light right now.
Yeah, it is.
It's not quite that shimmery, but so I use them to kind of build an environment for these rice paper finches.
And interestingly enough, and she'll say this as she goes through her part where she demos how she did that, that was really the inspiration for these stamps to begin with, was that you wanted to be able to build an environment for those birds. You wanted some background stuff, some foreground stuff, and she's going to tell you how to achieve that with light and depth of color and opacity of paint and stamping over and behind things to create that environment.
Yes, it's a very complex tutorial in my part.
It's really
Barb
not.
just makes a card, calls it good.
Wow! I have tire tracks in my chest. You threw me under the bus.
I didn't mean it that way. I just meant
Yeah,
I
sure.
had to go through I had to remember so much, and I said everything wrong, and you were like,
You didn't say
stamp
it
it with the
wrong."
Mica Stain, and it's amazing, which it was, which it is.
I can't help it that,
But-
you do more complex things than I do. I'm just a simple girl at heart.
Well, I wouldn't have been very successful with my complex things if you didn't tell me to stop. Don't do that yet. You're supposed to do it like this. And I was like, oh yeah.
I get to be the director or producer. I don't know what it is. I get
Behind
to
the
tell her
scenes.
what to do, which is fun for me.
Well, you
know?
saved the project because I was getting ready to glue the birds down.
Well, I saved a little tiny segment of the video. Let's not overstate things. But anyway, we're going to show you how to do both of these things, and you're going to have fun.
Yeah, all right.
You ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go do it.
Okay, so now that we hit this with the hairdryer and blew everything off the work table, that was fun. We're going to adhere these two beautiful birds to the rice paper. So I'm gonna put one up higher than the other so we can see both flowers, and probably kind of arrange them like that. That looks good, right?
It looks pretty. The fact that they're not side by side equally, I think, is important.
Yeah, the staggered height. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna put this over here and then just put the gel medium on the back of it. And, you know, work on a surface like this craft mat where you can just brush the glue completely off the edges, because the last thing you want to happen is for the little corners of the bird or the flower to curl up because they didn't get enough glue on them. And then you can just wipe it off of this surface. Barb likes to clean up my mess. Maybe she'll do it.
It's what I live for.
Maybe Barb will do it. Okay.
Barb will do it for you.
So we're going to put this one like right about there. And then the second one. This rice paper is really nice because it's thin and sturdy and it glues down. If you get the glue out to all the edges, it glues down perfectly flat. It doesn't give you any wrinkles and it really looks great. It's also UV light resistant, fade proof, and archival. And printed in Italy. One of these days we need to go visit the factory.
Right. That's a good excuse to go to Italy.
All right. So, and then this guy is going to be lower, sort of about here. We got to straighten out his flower. Barb even cut out his little tiny legs, which is rather impressive. There.
The devil, as they say, is in the details.
That's right. Okay. All right, so now we have those guys on there. And the next step that I did in the sample that I really liked was painting some white around the edges of the birds. So this is not really white. It's Naples yellow green. I guess that's not white at all, is it?
No, but it looks really good.
It looks good because it is another neutral kind of color for the background. So basically what I did with this is I gave the flower a little bit of a stem so that they don't look like they're floating. But there's also stems from the background, long stem floral stamps.
Long stem wildflowers.
Long stem wildflowers. It's so hard for me to remember the names.
Between you and me, we managed to get about 30% of them right.
So there's a line in there, and there's a shape in here that's formed by that Lady of the Nile stamp that's in the back like that. And speaking of that, I can even kind of go in between that stamp with the white.
Look at you.
Like that. Look at that. And then in here, we can go right on the edge of this brush because there's a little bit of the continuation of that shape there. And we could even bring it in here and maybe parallel to this a little bit. So you can get, oh here, why not? We'll just do that, Barb. Just make a big light colored area. So you can have fun with these negative spaces, and the more stems you stamp in the background, the more like kind of negative space openings you're gonna create to paint in. It's kind of like when we were kids and we did the scribbles. And then we painted in the spaces. Remember that, Barb? Mm-hmm. We do the scribbles and then we paint in the overlaps. It's kind of like that. So that's what I'm looking for. Like, for example, here, kind of between the line of stamps and, whoops, and the flower. right there. That looks kind of fun.
It does.
And then up here, we can come along this stem and come in here like that. Create a space like that. And what else? Let's see. Let's reinforce that a little bit. And, you know, you just have a little fun with wherever you're going to put this light white paint. And it gives you a little contrast and some interesting shapes.
You know what I think it does? I think it builds places for your eyes to go. It creates patterns within the background.
Yeah, definitely. The negative space definitely creates patterns. And if I had another stamp here,
Look at that.
I could do that. I can just make a space and then like maybe put a little triangle behind his head.
So you can make your own, even if you don't end up with what you think you're going to create with those stamps in the background. You can do what you just did to make your own.
Yep. But you'll get more space if you stamp more stamps in the background. You'll get more of those negative spaces. So you could think about that. Like maybe I could have stamped 3 or 4 more times, and that would have given me more spaces to put the white. But yeah, you can definitely make your own. You get a little creative like I'm doing here. And I don't have an overlap of long stem. What?
Wildflowers.
Wildflowers.
Yep, we've resorted to now I'm snorting again.
There we go.
Isn't that attractive?
Like that. That looks good.
It looks great.
And then like maybe in here. So it's not anything you need to get really fussy with or stress over, but it definitely it brightens up a space for the birds to stand out on. And like Barb said, it gives your eye a place to go. And like this one, the Lady of the Nile, I like putting the white kind of in between that. Look at that. I love that.
Yep, it looks awesome.
And maybe we'll bring this over here along the line of that postage stamp and stop right there. I'm using a 1/2-inch wash, but what I like about it is it's a square tip, so I can kind of cut in and kind of create straight lines kind of easily. Okay. We can carve around this little stamp. There. I think that's pretty good. Let's bring this down here. I just like to paint, Barb. I could like just keep finding places to add this like for the rest of the day.
Well, this is your gym.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll bring this down here. And maybe that. Ooh, I like that. Okay. So that looks awesome. I'm happy with that. And I am going to let that dry. And then the next step is that we are going to add some stamping on top with the long stem wildflowers. Those stamps on top will be in the foreground because they'll have color that will bring them forward, but also we're going to make sure that we use an opaque paint color so that when the stamp goes over the rice paper from the finches as well as the background, that we don't see through it. We wanted to see through the stamps that we use the archival ink pad for because we want them to be subtle and recede into the background, but these are going to come forward and be in the foreground, so we need them to be opaque so that they go on top. And we also want to choose a color that will make them come forward, and I chose pink because it picks up the colors of the flowers anyway. So that will be the next step. All right, so I stamped a couple of the long stem wildflowers on top using opaque colors. So I've got light rose, I've got, I can't read that. I have no idea what these colors are. They're all pink and they're opaque. You can tell that they're opaque because the squares on the bottom of the tubes are filled in solid. So that means that they're opaque and they're going to go over the background color. So I'm using the gel plate as my palette for this. And I just roll out the paint onto the gel plate. in a good layer, and then I'm going to press the foam stamp into the paint. Make sure you get really good coverage all the way down to the tip of the stem, and then you lay it over where you want it to go. Let's put this one right here and press. And that opaque color will stand right up on top of the rice paper birds as well as the background. So that looks really great. And then when the color dries, I come back in with the white Posca pen, either the PC1M.
I can't get in there. That's all right. You do your thing. It's
which
a PC1M or a PC1MR.
Or PC1MR. That's the thinner one. So this one is a thin tip as well, but this one is even finer. So either one, whichever one you like, you can come in, and I just add some white because it'll pick up this off-white in the background, and I'll embellish the stamp itself, and it'll bring some light to that as well. So I'm just gonna put like a sort of a little rough outline just around the design of the stamp itself, maybe come down the stem. We'll do a little bit in this one. This has got sort of a scribbled seed pod top, and then just rough petals at the bottom. And you can see how that white, we could even do a few dots in the center. And you can see how that white just really kind of picks up this light color and helps to bring it forward. So that one is still wet, so I'm not gonna mess with that one because Barb wants me to let you know that if you use the Posca paint marker in wet paint, you will clog the tip. I already clogged the tip of a couple of markers, and we've all done it. But yeah, so make sure this is totally dry before you start going at it with the Posca pen, whether you hit it with the hairdryer or just wait. So I've brought those forward. Now that one's wet. We'll leave that one alone. And then this one. So again, you don't have to trace every leaf. You don't have to be precise. You can kind of go along with a wiggly line that just brings some brightness to it. Oh, this is fun. I like doing this.
You know, I think it's interesting how amazing our brains and our eyes are. If you give us the hint of what something's supposed to be, half the time our eyes will fill in the difference.
Yes, you know, that is the basis of Impressionism.
Who knew? Well, at least, you know, you did, but...
All you have to do is give enough information that your brain can recognize and fill in the difference, yeah. Capturing the essence of something. So, there we go. I think that all looks good. I'll wait for that one to dry. Oh, I should sign this, Barb.
Yes, you should.
Right here. Look at that. I'm really happy with that. That's super fun.
Really pretty.
I might just have to mount that to that art alternative wood panel and hang it on my wall. I like it. So there is a great way to use these stamps, and it's interesting because this was really what I had in mind in the first place, was creating an environment for birds with these long stem wildflower kind of receding and coming forward and kind of creating them in an environment. So I like it a lot.
Elizabeth has shown you really what she designed these stamps for, which was to create foreground and background elements that she could incorporate into her paper paintings. I'm bringing in Mica Stains because I love them and I love the sparkle. And in fact, I added stickles to this one, and I'll try to get it in the light so that you can see it after. So I worked with a couple of the designs on this one, and I've got to look at my notes because there's no way I'm going to remember the names. The 3 stamps I used on here are With Gratitude, Petite Fleur, and He Loves Me. And then over here, it's Petite Fleur and Seeds of Change, which is what this one is. That's the only one for some reason I can remember. I'm going to use 3 colors of Mica Stains because I'm going to kind of mimic this one. But you can see stamping with Mica Stains is actually quite easy. You do have to be careful not to overload the stamp because the color will wick and spread a little bit. Then you just start again, or you cover it with something else. So Black Smooth and Sturdy watercolor. These are number 10 panel cards. We have them in 4 sizes. We have, in 4 colors. We have wet cement, watercolor, black, and we have craft. I'm gonna stamp on craft, and if I get a second, we don't want this to run on too long. If I get a second, I'm also gonna stamp on a craft envelope, so I have envelopes that match. We also have black envelopes, and then we have Astro Brights in number 10 too, so you can, if you wanna pick up on your colors, you can use an envelope that does that. Okay, so what I didn't do was get the 2 stamps out, because evidently I didn't get myself set up just as quickly as I thought. So somewhere here are, okay, there's the little one and there's this one. Okay, so we have, let's bring this in the shot. We have Seeds of Change and Petite Fleur. All right, so I'm going to give myself some room to work here.
That's an excellent French accent, by the way.
It is very hard for me. English is about all I can handle. Yeah, I don't even try to pretend. Okay, so I've given these a good shake, and I'm going to spray them kind of out in the order that I'm going to use them in, which means I want, this is Holly Branch, this one is Merriment. I want a little bit of that at the top, and I am off to the side. I'm just spraying the orifice on those so that the color doesn't get stuck in there, which it did on this one because I didn't clean it well enough the last time. So we'll just put some out like this, and it'll still work even though it's not going to be all misty. Okay, so I'm going to grab, if I'm going to mimic this, I need to start with Seeds of Change. So I'm going to put that here so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to stamp Seeds of Change in the 2 greens, and I need to get some more down here. And then I'm going to come in and I want to tap it into Shiny Bauble so I get more of that at the top. Now remember, I am doing this on camera, and sometimes things don't go exactly as we planned, but you know that it can be done because you've done it and I've actually done it. I mean, sometimes I plan these things and they don't go quite exactly the way I had in mind. All right,
Ooh,
so I did,
look at that.
Yeah, it's pretty. So then the next thing I did, if I'm remembering correctly, because I did this a couple of hours ago, was I came in and I lined up the stems like this, and then I ran this off the edge and overlapped it a little teeny bit. Okay, and now let's put some more of the Shiny Bauble on the top and come in and maybe grab some of that. And then I have one, again, coming more or less off this same branch or this same stem. Okay, so now I need to bring in the, we're gonna just call it the little flower. And then I don't have to pretend I have an accent or any understanding of the French language because I don't. All right, so I've got one way over here that comes off, curves, and then comes back. All right, and then let's do this. Now the nice thing about these stamps is that from here to here is about 11 inches, so you have lots of room to work. And the nice thing is if you want to flex these, you can do that too. Okay, so then I have kind of like that. All right, and then let's just play around here. I have another that overlaps this a little bit. Again, here's where the bendable stems come in. You can adjust these to have them do what you want. That probably shouldn't have overlapped quite so much, but oh well. And then our last one is going to come over, and I'm going to bend this one quite a bit more. And there you go. So that's super easy. And then I came back with a white Posca pen and I just did a little bit of border. But before that, I grabbed, I want to say that this was kind of an off-white paint, and I spattered. On this one, I would probably spatter a different color. And since I've got stuff left, what I'm going to do is bring in an envelope, and I'm just going to stamp some fun stuff on the envelope. I'm leaving myself plenty of room to address this, but
To me.
yeah, the woman who says, I never send me cards.
You don't.
I don't. I'm horrible at it. So I could put stuff on the back if I wanted, but I don't want to flip that over because this is not dry yet. So whether you do the real artistic thing that Elizabeth did, or you have more fun like I did, either way, you're going to get really nice results because these stamps can do almost anything. Whether you stamp with distressed mica stains or you stamp with paint on one of these panel cards, you use them on a journal page. There's lots of different ways to use them and have all kinds of fun.
And here we go. It's the element of surprise keeps you genuine and I don't know, spontaneous.
Yeah, I'm still suffering with tire tracks on my chest.
I always turn the camera on before she's ready.
Yeah.
I figure that makes it realistic.
Trust me, sister, it can't get any more realistic than what we do.
Nothing here is ever scripted. We just turn the camera on and go.
And what happens, happens. What happens in Sacramento stays in Sacramento.
Right, let's just hope they don't kick us out of this Airbnb.
I know, right? We always have a good time, and we hope that you have as much fun playing with these long stem wildflowers as we did, because we messed around with them for 3, 4, 5 hours before we even filmed this, playing with a bunch of different things. They're versatile. They are easy to use. Dunk them in the sink. Don't let the paint dry on the surface is really the only warning that I think we would give you. Beyond that, anything that's water soluble that washes off, it washes off. You're good to go. Put a tub of water next to your workspace, and that way if you're using paint, you just stick them face down in it, or you stick them on face down on a wet paper towel, and you're good to go.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. All right.
So see you next time.
See you next time.